I was going to start by saying, whether they've asked for it or not, I know I've told a lot of people over the years how we got started. What's your version of that story? Because I'm sick of hearing mine from myself. What's your version of how we got started?
How we got started.
And why? That's a big part of the how, I think.
Well, I would go back to school, because we met in school. Very lucky in the 90s to have a school that had a media studies subject that you could pick. And actually...
So unusual that, like, when I was at primary school, about to go to Heworth, that's what people were talking about. Like, oh, when you go to Heworth, you can do media studies, you can play with videos, quote unquote.
Well, the school that we went to, Heworth Grange Comprehensive School in Gateshead, did have a good history of being well known for doing way above average to very good drama performances. So the drama department was always very strong. Pretty much like semi-professional stage there. Really well attended shows. Very talented kids. Full on musical performances, including, we filmed a couple of them when we were there. So I think the media studies department had kind of been born from what had gone in drama from the 70s on when we got there in 92, did we go there?
93, sadly.
And of course, that kind of thing, it's not like now where everyone's basically got the technology in their pocket to be able to shoot and edit videos. The technology was very, very difficult to impossible to get a hold of.
Pretty sure you can also generate fake videos now, can't you, from the technology in your pocket?
So yeah, I also remember being very excited at the prospect. So we met there, and in GCSEs and A-levels worked together on projects, and it was clearly something we were both very passionate about. You could tell that because everyone else in the class wanted to be in our group because they knew that they'd get a guaranteed A in media.
Mainly because we take on doing most of the work.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, it was just really fun, enjoyable. We're shooting with super VHS cameras, editing with linear edit suites, which were about the size of the corner of this room here, and yeah, just absolutely loved it. And then in sixth form, got a first taste of non-linear video edit.
Well, yeah, because it was again foresight from the teacher to buy a PC that ran a version of Avid, basically, and I can't remember why now. Maybe it was just to try it out, but we'd worked on a tape edit of one of the projects, got it so far, and then we're like, right, well, let's redo it using this, and it was just better, obviously.
Yeah, it turns out linear editing was a bit of a ball. It really won it all round.
It is when you had to literally use your finger to get round the jog dial to get to the exact frame and then tee it up. But yeah. I suppose it was quite satisfying, but yeah, it was laborious.
Have you ever heard of the Cox Rock?
Sorry, pardon me?
Cox Rock.
Sorry. My father died at Cox Rock. Good day to you, sir. Well, he sort of came at me, a little like this. I think he's over here. What? I don't know if it's him, man. It's not him. He's over here. It's not me. He's over here. He's over here, man. He's over here. Oh, here, I'm over here. Alan! 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 Get a horse!
The problem came when the A-levels were complete. I went to university. You did not. When I went to university, I was hoping...
You sound disappointed like my dad there.
I was hoping to kind of pick up where I left off, and I actually found that there was a very steep drop from in production terms what I was able to do at school and the sixth form that the school had compared to when I went to uni, which was just very limited. It was just one module, so it was maybe once a week.
I was going to say the limitation wasn't the kit; the limitation was what they
Well, it kind of was
teach.
the kit as well, because you weren't, as a first year, you weren't allowed the best kit, so you're using camera gear that wasn't as good as what we'd used at school. So that's why, at some point during my time at uni, we decided in wisdom to embark on making a short film. Short film, I mean, 26 minutes. Probably not classed as a short film.
Well, I didn't know it was going to be 26 minutes at the time, and technically it's still a short film, but yeah. Take your point.
So we'd hooked up with other people in our local area who could help with do that. So obviously shout out to Zara, James, Richie Ray, who without them, wouldn't have got that opportunity as well. And that was just a really massive learning curve for us as well, because sometimes I think you need to be shown what you don't know to understand. So it was good to kind of be around people that understood the filmmaking process, kind of what actors need as well. And obviously it was just throw a load of people in and just see what happens. I remember we shot over 5 days. Day one, it felt like we had about 50 crew. By the end of day 5, there was about 6 people left.
Well, we were literally paying them in free Greg, so yeah. After a couple of days, you get bored of that. Don't you?
But yeah, that was a massive learning experience. And then I finished uni, and then I don't know. I think both of us have always had an entrepreneurial spark anyway. I know that you were you were involved in sort of other businesses and kind of helping out and kind of running your own stuff.
Well, technically, the first business I set up was me and my cousin doing car washing when I was 12 or 13 and he was 40.
So yeah, I think the thing that I would class as that was the first seed of your film being started, was something you presented to us, which was like something your dad had come across. Your dad, who's a big fan of...
A very American business opportunity newsletter type thing, yeah. With headlines something like, I bought a video camera and made $50,000 last year. It was something like that.
Yeah. Part-time.
yeah. Side hustle, before side hustle was a thing. So
I'm sure it was only like 2 sheets of paper, but yeah, it was... Yeah, I just bought like a camera off eBay, and now everyone just asks us to go and film stuff for cash, and I've made like 50 grand. Yeah, I presume that he was trying to sell us through that letter on buying into whatever his thing was. I don't know if it was friend. I don't remember. It was literally just seeing the headline, which I don't know why. Well, I do know why. It was a lot of factors that rolled into one, but timing obviously being the big one. Because yeah, in the time that you talked about being at uni, as you said, I hadn't gone to uni, so roughly speaking, right at the start of 2002 is when we started planning to make the short film. We're in pre-production basically around other things that we're doing up until the summer, shot it in the summer. Worked on the edit for quite a while, went back and forth, did a couple of cuts of that for different reasons, ended up finishing it early 2003, and then submitted to the Edinburgh Film Festival that year, who accepted it, albeit obviously not in competition. And then at that same time, while all that was going on, for me, from sort of like mid-2001, I had been working with my uncle on him trying to get a business going again, or effectively restart a business he had in the past. So that had been the overlap. And then, yeah, after we made the first short, I think it was summer, it must have been, maybe summer 2003 is when we tried to shoot the second one, and we're very, very half-cocked about that. That didn't work out. And then, that sounds about right, because I remember we did a screening, didn't we, of the short. We got like an audience feedback screening at the start of 2003. Yeah, that'd be right. Tried to shoot another one 2003 summer. It didn't work out. Got doing other things. I know I got some funding to redraft a script I'd written. I think you'd been involved in Stingers at that same point. And then 2004, by that point, when you were come to finish uni and I was very sick of working for HMRC, which I'd done for a few months,
I was working for my dad as well. That was when we had the conversation in the pub. But it was basically like there's actually a Seinfeld episode, which is the one where they both say they're going to get engaged, and then George does it and Jerry doesn't. Or Jerry does, but it's very short-lived. But they're just sitting in the coffee shop at the start, and they're talking about whatever nonsense they're usually talking about, and Jerry just goes, "Ugh." He's like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're not men. And then George is like, yeah, we're not men. And they're like, we need to change things. And that was kind of our version of that conversation was, and I suppose whatever people think of it, it speaks to whatever is one of the common things between us is like, it didn't seem right that what we're talking about was how do we go and get someone else's money again to do something that we want to do.
Mm-hmm.
That was the true starting point for me. That it was having that moment of realization of like, well, actually, we thought that was the only way to do it, but if we think about it, we could go a different route.
Well, just to clarify here, you've got to think about. So we're probably having these conversations back end of 2004, start of 2005. The world's a very different place in 2005. The iPhone didn't come out until 2007. YouTube started in the same year as
February
us,
2005.
2005. And for most of its early life, everyone just thought of it as I suppose, if you look at what memes are now across all social media, that's what YouTube was at the beginning. Everyone was like, because when we were talking to businesses about putting videos on there, they're like, it's just silly, daft videos.
Truthfully, we weren't to begin with. We were aware of it, and we're probably using it. But it was just funny little clips and stuff mainly. It was obviously very limited, time limited, amongst other things. And what we said to people, we were talking about video, but we're talking about it being embedded in their website because that was on the actual blurb on our original website. Said, if you've got your own website, you've got your own TV channel, which is the right idea, probably the wrong way to describe it. But I don't know, at the time, maybe that was the best way to describe it.
Mm-hmm.
But we're always like, well, obviously we're always on top of it because what we're selling, but I didn't foresee how big and, ubiquitous YouTube was going to be, but who could?
Google.
Yeah.
Well,
not then they couldn't, but soon they could, yeah.
Well, yeah, so I distinctly remember thinking, all I want to do is make films, and the biggest block to us doing that I can see is the kit, or lack of kit, because at the time it was, you're moving more towards digital stuff, but it's still tapes. Even though it's digital tapes, it's still tapes. It's very expensive for us too at the time, and yeah, that was what appealed from that 2-sheet, probably lie.
Yeah. Definitely a lie. Definitely a lie.
Well, there you go. That's how it started. It all started
Found
on
it
a
on
lie.
Yeah, true.
But it was the fact that he was saying, I'm still doing a kind of day job. The stuff with the camera I'm just doing on the side. And in my head I thought, so we could do stuff that we're paid to do, but then make the films we want to make on the side with the kit that we've got. So when we first...
Good idea, that.
So the idea was, we'll have to get that sorted this year.
Let's finally make that short film.
It's been on the to-do list.
Yeah, it's been knocked down the list a few times over the last 20 years. Yeah.
So, that was my thinking. If we can get the business going and get people that'll pay us to do things, and when we first set up, what we were saying was, we're not going to shoot wedding videos, but we will shoot anything else you can think of. So it was more of an event.
We'll put a lot of time.
Live events.
Yeah, we'll put a lot of time and effort into coming up with packages basically around everything that wasn't wedding, and didn't really know enough about how to sell them. Other than, for example, I know that we had a golf swing analysis package that we then went and spoke to, hotels and golf courses hotels that had golf courses and golf courses about making that something that was on offer to their paying punters. So I had some idea, but I remember making several different rate cards, depending on what the job was, which they all had logic to it at the time, but just a lot of evidence in retrospective, we just didn't know what we didn't know, did we?
Yeah.
And it's not like we didn't get advice. We did get some advice, but the advice we got was from, you know, Entrust and agencies that are just agnostic to what you're doing. It's just here's generic advice, which was helpful. But yeah, it would have been... I can't say I've ever looked back and thought, I wish we had a mentor, but if we're ever going to have one, if there was anyone like us now who could have, at that time, said, here's a few things to think about, I think we could have, you know, hit the ground running a lot more quickly, but that is what it is.
Yeah, so we decided in the pub that night that we're going to look into it, and I think...
Well, you were drinking a Caliber, no doubt, because you're going to have to drive me home.
Well, I've got to get you home, haven't I? Get you home safe and sound. Quite a few pub visits back then that you probably owes one on.
That's probably true, yeah.
Yeah, Caliber as well. If you think of the 0% alcohol market now,
Yeah.
everyone talks about how great the Guinness is and stuff. It was bloody horrible then.
Well, to be fair, I had a 0% Peroni the other day and it did not taste good.
So, yeah, we decided we're going to do it. I think the next thing we did was probably... Did we go to Entrust first and they said, go away and write a business plan?
Pretty much. I can't remember literally whether it was them or Gateshead Council, but that was the two things we did. We spoke to Entrust, they said write a business plan, advised on that. And then Gateshead Council, well, there was Prince's Trust as well, sorry, there was three. Prince's Trust were aware of, they probably told us about that and said there's free money you can tap into there, albeit, you know, a small amount. And then I think they also told us that Gateshead Council had a scheme that they would match. So basically, off the top of my head, I think we borrowed 3,000 off the Prince's Trust, and then match funded that with Gateshead Council. So we had like $6,000 to buy the camera, the tripod, the mic.
I remember
all the basics.
I remember at the time, I think it was the Prince's Trust that had the stipulation, but it was known that I was a graduate out of work, although I was actually working part-time. That was a big thing to them. That was like, no idea if that kind of thing exists anymore. Probably doesn't.
That's King's Trust now.
Well, I just mean in terms of that type of grant for anyone.
Well, yeah, the fact that was obviously true, and also just in general, both of our ages worked in our favour. I know that we were fairly close to aging out of the Prince's Trust bracket at the time, but it was good.
So no sooner was that money in my pockets, it was straight back out to CVP probably.
Yeah.
For an H. Preston.
Took delivery of our Sony FX1, was it? Was that the first one? Or the Z1? Which one was the more...
I think it was the Z1, wasn't it?
Z1.
It was the first prosumer HD
Catchy
camera.
that, like HDV. 1440p.
HD.
A nice halfway house between
10,
720 and actual HD.
Yeah, well, interlaced video, I'm glad we don't have to mess around with that anymore because it was a pain. But yeah, we got a camera, a tripod, a microphone.
Got in your car, drove straight down to the beach, filmed some poor sod getting soaked.
What was the stabilizer unit we bought? We bought that as well.
Oh, was it called the Steady Rig?
It might have been.
No.
It was good though, wasn't it? What it basically was a huge metal pole with two really heavy poles.
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, it's really steady. So you had to balance it on there. And then
Steady Tracker, was that what it's called?
Yes.
Steady Tracker, yeah.
And then take all the weight on your arm, and didn't really steady it that much, did it?
It sort of worked. To be honest, when I obviously using, jibs and all the things and stuff that you have to balance since, like, I think it's probably as simple as we needed to spend a bit more time fine-tuning the balance of it most of the time. But it was definitely better than just holding the camera.
How much did we spend on that?
It wasn't that bad, actually. It really wasn't that bad. We got, considering we bought it from America, had to get shipped over, I genuinely think it was only maybe $250, $300 tops, something like that.
100 quid import tax, and you're away.
Not back then.
So yeah, we had all the gear,
and then no idea.
and then no idea. We sat down and said, right, so we knew we needed a website.
Got my brother to do that for now.
Did you go to networking groups quite early on?
Not that early, no.
Well, working
Not
out your
that
mum and
early.
dad's back bedroom.
We were just ringing round, would like golf courses, hotels, that kind of thing. We're speaking to people that we knew who had businesses to get letters of intent, which, you know, was more for the funding paperwork than anything else. Would have been nice if anything would turn into a business, but, you know, weren't expecting it to be. But yeah, the main thing was getting the website put together, figuring out what we actually wanted to sell and working out all the detail of that, which in retrospect was a waste of time. And the crucial part was you rooting around the internet and finding places to put a link to our website that had just gone live.
Well, it was the early internet days, the Wild West, where the time of link farms and shit. You know, people saying, "Well, you know, I'll put a link to your website on mine if you do the same."
Didn't web pages still have frames designs back then?
Probably. But yeah, I do remember kind of going on to just trying to think of where our target clients might have been already. And I think the associate job came through a website where you could go and book.
There's team building stuff on it.
Yeah, like team
Corporate
building
team
exercises. So it was, you know, like a...
Which, to be fair, the thing that we'd worked out was going to be the thing that was the most exciting to us, because it was the closest to what we wanted to do, was the make your own film residential team building weekend type idea. Mm-hmm. So we were totally along the right lines, because the first job we got was literally that, albeit it wasn't residential, but it was the same sort of thing. Yeah. Our plan was we could never, I suppose, work out, because we hadn't done it yet, what the optimal numbers were, because the plan was basically, let's, you know, do a deal with the venue for the sake of argument. Ramside. And say, right, we'll bring a client here with 30 people in a group, work out the deal with that, and then the exercise for the weekend was that they got put into groups on the Saturday morning, given a brief, given some equipment, and one of us plus other people were going to bring in to kind of supervise each group. They'd go off, make their own film, whatever that was going to be, and then we'd have, you know, would all be sitting editing one basically on the Sunday, so that when they had the dinner on the Sunday night, they could all watch the films, which I think is still a pretty good idea for that kind of event. But yeah, the first job was basically that, wasn't it? Minus the residential part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. I mean, we're literally learning on every job we're doing rapidly, because as much as we'd obviously made stuff before, the technical side of the camera wasn't either of our stronger points. Editing was still learning, and the software was developing really rapidly at that point as well. So you were, and it was expensive. It wasn't like online subscriptions now. It was. You know,
it's a good job we'd never paid for it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
would have been screwed if we paid for it.
Oh yeah, too big the overheads. Like, that's how they get you now. Isn't it? The subscriptions you've got to pay. It's a disgrace.
That's whatever we didn't pay in that first couple of years, we've paid several times over since. Because remember when it used to be nice, you just go and plunk down $2,000 and you just owned the software and that was it.
I do, yeah. So we're set up. We've got our kit. We've got a first job booked in pretty quick. We've got a website.
Even that, we're set up in April. By pure coincidence, they happened to get in touch in about the middle of April. We were like, the system works. Booked her for July. And then we're high-fiving each other and it's like, right, see you in July pretty much.
That sounds like us. So do you might remember every job we did in that first year then?
Well, there wasn't many.
Go on then. If you name them, we'll just talk a little bit about each one, since there's not that many. Was H-Boss in that first year?
That was technically the very first job, the way it worked out. That was definitely invoice number 1. So it was booked after, but happened before, because there was this 3-month gap from when Associate booked us. Off the top of my head, I think it was just 3 clients that year. I think it was H-Boss, of course, where you turned out to be registered as Kevin Cameraman at the hotel.
Funny enough, I didn't guess.
Guess
that name at reception, did I?
So there was that one. There was Associate, which was it was a big job because we were back up and down 2 or 3 times, and then they booked her for a follow up for the event that they were doing later in the year. So we worked with them a few times during the year. And Inform North, which was a contra deal, obviously that wasn't paid. That was probably the second one that worked. Again, that took time because we're kind of, figuring out how do you promote a magazine with a video, basically. Which, in retrospect, I mean, I remember like I remember sitting in my mum and dad's living room with you, trying to work out what we're going to do for it, and feeling quite panicked that I couldn't think of anything. And I think we came up with something at the time that felt right. Looking back at it, which I try not to do, but I have done, it's actually the structure of it, the idea of it. I mean, obviously the execution is not good at this point, but the idea of it's about right.
Mm-hmm.
So we did have something. But yeah, we did that. Did a couple of associate jobs, and I can't remember, but I think by the end of that year, I'm pretty sure by the end of that year, we'd made first contact with the first year start, which was Wallsend. That was it, really.
Mm-hmm. That's a pretty decent first year for a business, though. I mean, we had the benefit of not needing an income from it.
Yeah, we're both doing other things as well.
Yes, so that's always worthwhile saying, I think, because I've got a lot of respect for people, you know, actual grown-ups who have a nice steady job who quit it to then start their own thing, because that needing to take a salary from your own business from kind of month one is very scary, very difficult.
Well, yeah, I mean, realistically, we started April 2005. It wasn't until second half of 2007 that we're in a position where we had to and were able to take a regular small salary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how come you didn't come to the HBOS filming then? Just didn't have enough budget? It's bloody hard work, that.
No, actually, I can tell you why. Do you not remember?
No.
It's because it was on a Thursday night.
Ah.
And I was still otherwise engaged in religious meetings on Thursday nights. So you manfully took it on your own. Dick Van Dyked it, one-man band.
And then came back with half the purse for you. There you go, pal.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I'm not going to look, but from memory, I feel like that entire job was about 500 quid. Whatever.
Well, it was
doesn't
basically,
matter.
that one was very close to what we'd first envisioned as kind of, it was a business, but it was basically a party that we were filming. And that was one of the key things that would expect it to do. I remember that I'm sure on the website there was you had, you know, the type of work we do is like parties, other things.
Well, the original website, there was an
And
entry
then-
point.
and then-
When you land on it, it was like, are you basically business or personal kind of thing?
I was going to say, well, I knew there was a corporate one, but I'm sure the corporate one just said, yeah, give us a call if you've got a business video.
Pretty much, yeah. And the other one pretty much just said, we don't do weddings.
Yeah, I think the first flyer we did starts with, we don't make wedding videos. All right.
Yeah, and yeah, it was in a beautiful baby shit brown colour palette. We really set our stall out and
It came out
and
nice, didn't it?
introduced ourselves as, you know, here we are, draped in shit, telling you what we don't do.
Yeah.
Pleased to meet you.
Different times.
I can't remember at the minute in the first year if there was any. I just remember it being, because what we talked about, very well, I suppose relaxed, basically, because we weren't relying on it. But I can't remember any particular incident that really changed anything. It was more like later down the line when we realised the mistake that we should have been a limited company from the start on a personal level.
Yeah.
That was related to 2005, but didn't happen in 2005. So I think that first year was just, from my memory, just like the novelty of doing it. And I have a feeling that the when we shot the AGM of Sure Start Wallsend, I think that was right towards the end of that year.
Mm.
And I mean, you know, it's no reflection on them. It was a reflection on us. But that was our moment, like when Del and Rodney sell the watch at the auction, and they cuss them in the car, and the car's just rocking because they're going mental inside the car. Like, just remember coming out of that, getting back in the car, putting the kit away, just looking at each other and just being like, how much do we just get? Oh, getting paid to do that? Really?
I know. I always remember it feeling exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It always felt exciting because, and it still feels like this today. There's always potential. You always think, what's next? It is strange that there's very few moments where there is a obvious realization that you've kicked up a gear.
Mm-hmm.
It happened most of it happens so slowly and naturally that you kind of, it's not until you start looking back that you realise very much has changed. So yeah, when I think back to those days, like there's some days where you're sitting doing loads of admin now where it's like, wasn't it easier when there was just two of us, and you're just sitting and like,
Or when you hear one of the staff whinge about there's not enough cans of pop in the fridge.
But yeah, I think there's plenty to laugh about. But I think overall that's a pretty solid first year for two people that were bang up for it. But bless, we just didn't have a clue
well, it's funny.
how to attack it.
It's funny you should say that, because I was just thinking the one thing that we haven't mentioned, the one funny thing I suppose from that year was was speaking of being bang up for it, when we're dealing with one of the three clients, people can figure out which one it was, and for whatever reason, totally unprompted, I can't remember why, but your dad gave you the big advice, which obviously you can do an impression better than I can, but I'm happy to do it if you want.
You're going to have to give some context around this.
What type of context?
Well, the truth is, on that first job, there was the client, the people that we were dealing with were two women, two younger women.
The thing, there was two things I was going to say, and I suppose the first one does add context. The second one, whoever we spoke to, whoever showed up, people were kind of like looking past us to be like, right, where's your boss? When are they coming?
Where's your dad?
So, yeah. So like the fact that we were early 20s, would set up this business, people weren't weird about it, but they just didn't assume it belonged to us. So like we're always kind of against that. Like there was always this perception that we were quite young to be doing what we're doing. I don't think that we were necessarily, but that was the perception. So, we're two young lads. This particular project, we're back and forth, we're dealing with two female clients, which, we're just having a laugh with, basically.
Well, we got on with them very well.
We're just having
very
a laugh with
well.
them. And whatever it was...
I'm sure you were texting one of them as well. Nah. Was texting even a thing then?
Texting was a thing, but nah.
I'm sure you were texting.
Nah.
Oh, I think you were.
Nah.
I think that's why it came up.
Nah. Well, I tell you what...
My dad didn't just
say
that for no reason.
Well... Nah.
The advice, by the way,
I'll tell you what did happen was, and I think it was the second job, one of them tried to pull you in through the car window. Not remember that?
No.
I think
funny that's how we both forget the incriminating things.
I think that was the second job, the one where the boss was wearing the gold jacket to hand out the awards.
Oh, right.
And I'm pretty sure that basically we were stopping at the hotel, because that was the night that you nicked the champagne. Terrible. But
statute of limitations.
But yeah, so we were stopping there, and they were just trying to get me to go for a drink somewhere. There was nothing to it. They were trying to get me to go for a drink somewhere. They had a few drinks.
Classic Matthew. There's never anything to it.
Well, there wasn't, was there?
The advice, by the way, from my dad was never mix sex with business. Which, to be fair, we've stuck to pretty well.
Yeah, the plan wasn't to do that at the time, but that's what made it funnier to me. That's what he said to you.
But yeah, there was definitely some kind of shenanigans that he was commenting on. I was probably telling him about getting pulled into the car or something.
Well, fair enough, but whatever it was his perception of shenanigans. But yeah, that you did get pulled in the car.
Well, anyway, you've got the title of the podcast now.
What, never mix sex with business?
Yeah, there you go.
It's just not... Even putting the full stops in, though, you need to hear your dad say it. I mean, that was a good impression, obviously, but you need to hear your dad say it.
Was there anything else to cover from year one, then?
I don't think so, because that, we worked the whole time at my mum and dad's house. We didn't start to think about an office till the next year. And it really was, like we said, it was just the novelty of doing it. And to be fair, I suppose we have to pat ourselves on the back, albeit the bar was very low because we weren't relying on it. But the fact that we actually got the thing going and did manage to not tank it. Obviously, we've known other people over the years who've tried to do the same. It just hasn't lasted very long. And, I'm not knocking them for it, but like that is more common than not, that you try to do something and it fizzles out after a short period of time. And obviously it didn't do that for us. And I do think that we're protected by the fact that we didn't have to rely on it. But so what? That was the circumstances, and here we are now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Obviously we're going to talk about this more as the year progresses, but the the short film that was still never made is still on our minds and has informed something that we've sort of decided to do later this year, which we'll talk about. But yeah, I think that's probably it for 2005.
Okay.
Year one, done.
Well, I mean, year one Batman makes mistakes as well. Gets injured and hurt and stuff. It's the best lessons you learn are the mistakes, and there was quite a few.
Does that mean your dad was our Alfred? Some men just want to make sex with business.
Yeah. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, cheers.